Hi students, welcome to our lecture series. This is a second lecture made for you to help in your conceptual understanding and to understand the lesson in a proper way. So as in the previous lecture we have discussed about buccopharyngeal cavity and tongue. In this lecture also we will be covering few topics. But in the last lecture we have missed few topics, so we'll cover initially. We'll revise those topics also, then again we'll go with this lecture. So as usual we'll start our lecture with the help of a quote. Every morning you have two choices: continue to sleep with your dreams or wake up and chase them. So every morning when you wake up you have two choices, that is to continue sleep with your dreams or wake up and make your dreams come true. So whichever you want to choose, you can choose. That is up to you. Okay, in the last class we have discussed about taste buds. Taste or gustation is a chemical sense. Only 5 primary tastes can be distinguished: sour, sweet, bitter, salty and umami. You can see in the figure of tongue that which part of our tongue is going to give which type of taste. The sweet and salt is at the tip and sour is at the sides and bitter is at the base. So you have to remember it easily. Salt and sweet always we'll try to taste salt and sweet with the tip of our tongue, and sour is to the sides and bitter is at the back. And the new taste which was found out by Japanese scientists, that is umami taste. So this umami taste is a very meaty or savory taste which comes in Chinese foods. It is due to the presence of monosodium glutamate. So we can find it in Chinese foods. That is, it is also available in the form of tasting salt. All other flavors such as chocolate, pepper and coffee are combinations of the 5 primary tastes, plus accompanying olfactory and tactile touch sensations. So this is about tongue, and another thing, that is nerve supply to tongue. Facial nerve, it supplies anterior 2/3 of tongue and carries sensation of taste. And glossopharyngeal nerve, it supplies posterior 1/3 of tongue and carries sensation of taste. Trigeminal nerve, it carries sensation of pain, pressure, temperature from tongue. Vagus nerve, supplies it supplies back of tongue and carries sensation of taste. And there is another nerve, that is hypoglossal nerve. It supplies muscles of tongue and it is for tongue movement. So see here, you can see that all the nerves which are supplied to tongue are for sensation of taste. 3 nerves, that is facial, glossopharyngeal and vagus, is for sensation of taste, and trigeminal is for sensation of pain, pressure and temperature, and hypoglossal is for sensation of tongue movement. It helps in the movement of tongue. You can see the tongues of different animals over here. It is a figure which is showing tongues of different animals. So those were the topics which we left out in the last lecture. That is, we could not complete due to some technical problems. That is the nerve supply to tongue and what are the tastes of tongue. So here the topics to be covered in this lecture are tooth and salivary glands. So you can see the structure of a tooth here, which is made very beautifully, and salivary glands. So we have three pairs of salivary glands which help us in achieving the food properly, and it got many functions. We'll study the structure of tooth detailedly and about the salivary glands detailedly in this lecture. Okay, tooth. So it is also called teeth odontology. The oral cavity has a number of teeth and a muscular tongue. The oral cavity, which is present in our mouth, has a number of teeth and a muscular tongue. Each tooth is embedded in a socket of jawbone. This type of attachment is called thecodont. If the tooth are embedded in a socket of a jawbone, then in those type of tooth are called thecodont. That type of dentition is called thecodont. An adult human has 32 permanent teeth, which are of 4 different types. Heterodont dentition, namely incisors, canines, premolars and molars. Heterodont dentition. So hetero means different types of teeth. If we have different types of teeth, there are 4 types of teeth present in our body, that is incisors, canines, premolars and molars. If an animal is having different types of teeth, then that type of dentition is called heterodont. You can see the figure. This is the figure given in NCERT textbook. So these are the, in the right side you can see the sockets. So these are the sockets. Which are meant for teeth to get embedded into it. So as these sockets are present in our jaw, then our dentition is called thecodont dentition. Tooth eruption begins by 6 to 8 months of age. Central incisors are first to erupt. We can see in it in a baby of 6 to 8 months that central incisors will be erupting first. Humans have diphyodont dentition. Diphyodont. This word is the words which we mention here. The terminology is very important. We have come across a thecodont and heterodont. Now we are coming across a diphyodont. So diphyodont means 2 sets of teeth will develop in the lifetime of a human. That is when the baby will get in the 6 to 8 months, the baby starts milk dentition, and after milk dentition is completed by nearly 2 years, then up to 6 to 12 years of age, this milk dentition is replaced by permanent teeth. So in the human life you have 2 types of teeth: milk teeth, they are deciduous teeth, and a permanent teeth. So this type of dentition is called diphyodont dentition. So premolars are absent in children. In place of premolars, molars are present. So premolars are seen only in adults. Okay. So when at the milk dentition is gone, then the 2 types of premolars and molars will be erupted. But in children, there are no premolars. Premolars are absent. In place of premolars, molars are present. So dental formula: arrangement of teeth in each half of the upper and lower jaw in the order I, C, P, M and M is represented by a dental formula, which in human is 2123 by 2123. Dental formula is an equation which represents number and type of teeth in each half of both jaws. The hard chewing surface of teeth is made up of enamel, helps in the mastication of food. Enamel is the hardest substance in the body. You can see that which type of teeth in the figure: 2123 by 2123. This represents the half of the teeth, that is incisors, canines, premolars and molars. So you can see here the clear picture showing the structure of tooth. A typical tooth has 3 major external regions: the crown, root and neck. The crown is the visible portion above the level of the gums. You can see in the figure also the crown which is present over here is the upper visible portion, white portion of our tooth. The embedded in the socket are 1 to 3 roots. So you can see here these are the roots 1 and 2. Sometimes there are 3 roots also. These are the root. The neck is the constricted junction of the crown and root near the gum line. So near the gum line you can see this constricted region. This is the neck. Internally, dentin forms the majority of the tooth. Dentin consists of a calcified connective tissue that gives the tooth its basic shape and rigidity. It is harder than bone because of its higher content of calcium salts. Dentin consists of a calcified connective tissue that gives the tooth its basic shape and rigidity. So dentin is harder than bone because it consists of higher content of calcium salts. The dentin of the crown is covered by enamel, which consists primarily of calcium phosphate and calcium carbonate. So the dentin of the root is covered by cementum, another bone-like substance which attaches the root to the periodontal ligament. So you can see here the periodontal ligament. So this is the periodontal ligament which is making the tooth to embed in the socket. The enlarged part of the space, the pulp cavity, lies within the crown. Pulp cavity, you can see the pulp cavity here, called the enlarged part of the space, the pulp cavity, lies within the crown and is filled up with pulp, a connective tissue containing blood vessels, nerves and lymphatic vessels. Narrow extensions of the pulp cavity, called root canals, run through the root of the tooth. So root canals, you can see that this is a root canal here. So they run through the root and they consist of, each root canal has an opening at its base. The apical foramen, this is the apical foramen, through which blood vessels, lymphatic vessels and nerves extend. Here the study of different branches of dentistry we can see here. The branch of dentistry that is concerned with the prevention, diagnosis and treatment of diseases that affect the pulp, root, periodontal ligament and alveolar bone is called endodontics. And what is orthodontics? The branch of dentistry that is concerned with the prevention and correction of abnormally aligned teeth, that is called orthodontics. And the branch of dentistry concerned with the treatment of abnormal conditions of the tissues immediately surrounding the teeth, such as gingivitis, is called periodontics. So now we'll go with the second topic discussed in this lecture, that is salivary glands. You can see a clear picture of salivary glands over here. A salivary gland is a gland that releases a secretion called saliva into the oral cavity. So what is the function of the salivary glands? That is to release the saliva. Ordinarily, just enough saliva is secreted to keep the mucous membrane of the mouth and pharynx moist and to cleanse the mouth and teeth. But when food enters the mouth, however, secretion of saliva increases and it lubricates, dissolves and begins the chemical breakdown of the food. The mucous membrane of the mouth and tongue contains many small salivary glands that open directly or indirectly via short ducts to the oral cavity. These glands include labial, buccal and palatal glands in the lips, cheeks and palate respectively, and lingual glands in the tongue, all of which make a small contribution to saliva. So you can see different types of glands here. Parotid gland, you can see a parotid gland here, and a sublingual salivary gland, that is sublingual gland here, and submandibular gland over here. So most saliva is secreted by the major salivary glands which lie beyond the oral mucosa into ducts that lead to the oral cavity. So the three pairs of major salivary glands are parotid glands, submandibular glands, sublingual glands. The parotid glands largest are located inferior and anterior to the ears between the skin and the masseter muscle. Each secretes saliva into the oral cavity via a parotid duct, that is duct of Stenson, that pierces the buccinator muscle to open into vestibule opposite the second upper molar tooth. You can see the figure clearly. The parotid glands secrete a watery serous liquid containing salivary amylase. So you can see that parotid gland is having a parotid duct which is releasing its opening into the upper second upper molar tooth. So second salivary gland is submandibular glands, are found in the floor of the mouth. Their ducts, the submandibular ducts, duct of Wharton, run under the mucosa on either side of the midline of the floor of the mouth and enter the oral cavity lateral to the lingual frenulum. So as we have studied about the lingual frenulum also in the last class. So there the duct of submandibular glands, that is nothing but duct of Wharton, opens. These secrete a fluid that contains amylase but is thickened with mucus. Here we can see another clear picture regarding the salivary glands. You can see the sublingual glands are beneath the tongue and superior to the submandibular glands. Their ducts, the lesser sublingual ducts, duct of Rivinus. So duct of Stenson is the duct coming from the parotid glands, and duct of Wharton is the duct coming from submandibular duct glands, and duct of Rivinus open to the floor of the mouth. The duct of Rivinus is the duct coming from sublingual glands. These contain mostly mucus cells, so they secrete a much thicker fluid that contributes only a small amount of salivary amylase. So what is the composition and functions of saliva? You can see in this slide. So saliva is 99.5% water and 0.5% solutes. Among the solutes are ions including sodium, potassium, chloride and bicarbonate and phosphate. The water in saliva provides a medium for dissolving foods so that they can be tasted by gustatory receptors and so that digestive reactions can begin. Also present are some dissolved gases and various organic substances. The water in saliva provides a medium for dissolving foods so that they can be tasted by gustatory receptors. So there are some dissolved gases also. Urea and uric acid, mucus, immunoglobulin A is also present in the saliva. The bacteriolytic enzyme lysozyme is also present, and salivary amylase, a digestive enzyme that acts on starch. Okay, bicarbonate and phosphate ions buffer acidic foods that enter the mouth. So if we eat any acidic food, these bicarbonate and phosphate ions present in the saliva, so they make it neutral. So saliva is only slightly acidic. So mucus lubricates food so it can be moved around easily in the mouth, formed into a ball and swallowed. Immunoglobulin A, IgA, prevents attachment of microbes so that they cannot penetrate the epithelium, and the enzyme lysozyme kills bacteria. Lactoferrin is an iron binding protein in saliva. It binds with iron and stops bacterial multiplication. Lingual lipase. It digests approximately 20% of fats in stomach and small intestine. It has no role in buccal cavity. So this lingual lipase is also present in saliva, but it will not show its action in the buccal cavity itself, but it will show its action in the stomach and small intestine. So what is the regulation of saliva secretion? We can see here saliva secretion is a reflex action. So as we know that whenever we see it is in response to taste of food, it is inborn reflex or inherited reflex. In response to smell, sight, thought, feel of food, it is acquired reflex. Inborn reflex means by birth we are having this reflex, that is when we come to near a tasty food, we will get the release of saliva. Acquired reflex is that when we from the childhood we are learnt how the omelette how making of omelette makes a sound. So whenever that sound comes, then saliva is released. That is acquired reflex. Even the sound of food being cooked makes us salivate. So when the omelette is broken and the sound on the pan also makes us salivate. So that is the acquired reflex. Stimulation of sympathetic nervous system decreases saliva secretion, and stimulation of parasympathetic nervous system increases saliva secretion. So saliva secretion reduces during sleep. So bacterial activity speeds up in buccal cavity, resulting in dragon breath, that is called halitosis. So this is all about the topics discussed in this lecture. So in the chapter of digestion and absorption, so from the beginning we are discussing buccopharyngeal cavity, and we have discussed detailedly about the tongue and taste buds and the structure of a taste bud, and the what are the nerves connecting the tongue, and different types of tastes we have discussed. And in this lecture we have discussed about tooth and structure of tooth, and what are the parts present in the tooth, and what are different types of tooth are called, that is thecodont, diphyodont and heterodont. And we have also discussed about different types of salivary glands in this lecture. So if you have any doubts, you can text to me. I will clear all your doubts. Then we'll continue with these lectures. I will help you in understanding your concepts clearly. So I'll make a lot of videos like this, which will be very helpful to you to understand the concepts clearly. So until then, thank you.